think it's kind of what I said earlier about saying yes to life, just be willing to take it on, really understand it, dive into it, learn what it is. That's the technical side of things. The other part to it is, as you progress, it becomes less technical and more about managing people and the bigger picture. It's really understanding what drives and motivates your teammates. So understanding what everyone is about goes a long way.
So, Peter Toma,
Yep.
welcome to the
Yep.
Entrepreneurial Engineer.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for coming in. Super pleasure to have you on board and here for a good chat. What I really want to get to, and for people that don't know you, if you could sum up who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about right now, give us your spiel.
So who am I? My name's Peter Toma. I've been in the engineering construction industry for the last 15 or so years. My passion, I find myself gravitating towards construction, really. That's kind of inside work and outside of work, funnily enough. So that's kind of who I am, what I'm about. I'm a family man, wife and one daughter, and yeah, really looking to build this new business that I've started the last couple of months, NG Advisory. And so yeah, kind of in that space now where taking my engineering technical skills and transferring them to a more entrepreneurial business sense. So yeah, it's going to be a fun ride, I think, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So, tell me about the first day you stepped sight on a construction site. What was it like? What were you feeling?
Yeah.
And what happened?
I think I probably had a different sense of what it would be like. I sort of the latter part of my uni career, I thought, in engineering, you're going to be in control of the site, and that man standing on top of the hill and pointing to everyone and giving them directions on what to do and what not to do. I guess when I went to my first site, which was really the Gold Coast Light Rail project up in Queensland. That was my sort of first real project, I guess. It was very different. It was head down, bum up, filled with paperwork, quality, material orders, things that they don't really teach you at school or at uni. And so, yeah, it was different. But I think for me, because I had taken the chance and moved up there from Sydney, I didn't really have any other choice but to sort of make it work. I wasn't going to move back anytime soon. So for me, it was not what I thought it was going to be. But looking back at it now, it's all just part of, I guess, that on-the-job training. You just learn by doing. And so those times I look back and go, well, I learnt a lot, even though at the time I probably didn't think that I was. So yeah, that was my first sort of experience out on site.
What was that key decision-making framework or idea and your thoughts at that time of going, I'm going to move. I'm going to just go to the Gold Coast. Yeah. What was going through your mind, and what made you just do it?
Well, as I was finishing uni part-time, I was working somewhere else full-time in a design firm, a small design firm out in Bondi Junction at the time. And I was driving there every day, and I was parking in the same spot every day. I'd walk to the office in the same direction every day, past the same houses every day, in the same seat every day. And I thought to myself, oh, this can't be it for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it may be. And by chance, a friend of mine, her dad was working as one of the bid managers on that project. She asked me if I wanted to go to the project. Initially, I said no, I wouldn't move. And then a couple of months later, just, was festering in my mind, I guess, doing that same old routine. And I just thought to myself, well, why not? Let's have a go. And as a young graduate engineer, they flew me up for an interview, which was fantastic. I mean, that feels like royalty treatment, and basically got told I got the job on the spot, and I was excited, and they were paying living away from home allowance, and so it was an uplift, sorry, but to live on the Gold Coast, which is rare these days, and looking back, it was a no-brainer. And personally, it was a really a great move for me, because it was the first time I was living out of home, living on my own. So you grow not just professionally but personally. You learn other responsibilities, and so it was a really positive experience for me.
Yeah, those sliding door moments in your career around just saying yes, just going for it. What would you say to those young engineers now who might have an opportunity, maybe not to move, maybe to be promoted or otherwise, or how are you ready for that? Because I think that I just see it, maybe I'm biased, but I just see all these opportunities everywhere, right? I just, there's so many opportunities.
Yep.
But the one thing I find from talking to young engineers is they often say, I'm not ready, or I can't go for that, or I don't have the skills. How do you combat that?
I think in terms of like positions and sort of the next level up, I think it's just trying to understand what the right expectation is of that next level, and try and get some on-the-job experience in doing that without the promotion, without, the money, I guess, so to speak. But it's that training and transition into that role. And then that for me personally gives you confidence that, I can do that. This is what's expected. And I've been doing it for the last 3 to 6 months, whatever it may be. And now I feel confident in asking for that role or position, or, applying for a job at that next level up. But I certainly think it's a confidence thing. And so that's what it was for me anyway, is my confidence in the ability to do that particular task or role, or take on that particular responsibility.
Yeah, the whole get the experience and then ask for the promotion.
It's more just you're showcasing that you can do the job, and so when you go and ask for something or you go and apply, you can say, I've been doing this for the last X amount of months or years or whatever it is, rather than just going up there and asking for something that somebody else has to try and justify to put you in a position where they may have doubts or may not, maybe they don't, but maybe they do. And so you can squash those with an extra couple of months, 6 months, maybe a year, which when you're younger, it sounds like a long time to wait. But if you've got a 30-year career ahead of you, I think it's worthwhile.
So be patient. I think
try and be patient. Yeah, I mean, it's probably rich coming from myself as an impatient kind of person.
Me
but
too.
Yeah, but I think if you've got good leaders and good mentors and managers, they'll see the what's the word?
Potential.
They'll see the potential in you. Yeah. So I think that's really what it's about.
I do think a lot of young engineers sometimes get that around the wrong way. They say, well, I'm not ready, but then they want the extra responsibility without then having the track record or the experience to get to that point. So it's this sort of like this revolving circle. But it's awesome that you just went, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And, I often do think, at least in stages of my career, if I didn't say yes, if I didn't just go for it, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah, so, I would agree. Yeah, you have to say yes to life.
You do, right? So construction's one thing, right? Building's one thing, design's one thing, commercial, contracts, people. What sort of steps did you take in those early years to really get that, what I would think is a well-rounded, construction manager, construction director, engineering role? What did you do throughout that time?
Yeah, so looking back on it, I probably did, in the early days, I probably did a lot of it out of fear, as in I don't want to make a mistake. So it was trying to figure out what do I have to do to make sure that everything's correct and right? Because one wrong decision can cost a project a lot of money, right? So for me, early days, it was almost fear based to not let my teammates down, my colleagues down, the project. I also didn't want to look incompetent, and so you just try and work through that. And never really having been on a construction project before, I would obsess with the program and just look at it and think, okay, well, this is coming up. What do I have to organize? I would make my list, and I was just pedantic about it because I didn't want to cop that spray from the supervisor or the project manager. So it was a little bit fear based, but I guess it was the motivation for me to just be a really good professional. Um, and so that was one thing. But then as I look back on it now, what I would encourage younger engineers is to start off on the smaller projects, because those smaller projects, you learn everything. You learn not just construction, you learn how to deal with design, commercial, safety, quality, and that's purely because there's generally not the amount of resources available on those projects compared to, say, the large billion-dollar jobs that the tier ones are doing. And I'm not saying you can't get experience with the tier ones, you certainly can, but on the smaller projects, you get to deal with the client, so you understand how to talk to the client when you need to. You understand the commercial aspect, which becomes important for you later on when you want to progress. You can say and you can look at every activity or every aspect of a role and say, I've been exposed to that, I can do that. And so starting off on the smaller jobs, and then ideally in an ideal world you progress to the larger projects. You get a good understanding of how a project is run from start to finish, which a lot of engineers, when they start out their career on these big jobs, they may not be a part of mobilizing the site, getting the compound set up. What does that look like? How does that work? What do we need? And then at the back end, closing out a job, which is extremely difficult. Probably one of the hardest things you can do on a project is the last 10% takes 90% of the effort, So that full project life cycle, you get an understanding of all of that, and you don't necessarily get that on the big projects.
Yeah, so I like it. Using fear to be so competent that you can't go wrong. It's bulletproof. And then, I'm always a big fan of small companies, small projects, coal-face stuff, talking to the client, the learning that you can have on that project life cycle. I do see a lot of engineers going, into graduate roles, and they want to go into the big organizations, and that's great. But I have seen them come out of there going, I only did this one little thing. I didn't have a project from start to finish. I didn't write a fee proposal. I didn't invoice a job. I didn't get to understand the metrics behind why the project is what it is. So
you're basically running a little mini company, I guess. So
each project is a mini company.
That's what it is.
That's right. Just you're sort of selling it at the end, I guess.
Yeah,
I like that. So you worked on some big jobs. So I did see Sydney Gateway. Massive. M12. Massive. Talking about those big jobs, what are some of the key lessons that you took from those?
Well, they're very different in each respect, because you got some contracts that are like, say, PPP contracts, particularly with the light rail projects. You got DNC, you've got construct only. So the approach is very different for all of them. It's I'm a bit lost for words on this one.
Pick a commercial issue.
What's the difference between them?
Well, I think where I'm looking at it, right? So at least I'll reverse the question to myself. So I'll look at, I had a big DNC project, and one shortcoming I saw was that the concept design at tender for DNC wasn't developed enough. And throughout the design development process, I just saw so much value lost for the client, because DNC contractor took it to a point, so much stuff got stripped out. Were there mechanisms in the contract for ups and downs? Not really.
Mm.
Some, but not a lot. And I looked at something that was inherently different to a tender design, and I saw, what would be a contractor making a lot of money out of that. And I saw what would be the client not getting that value or not capturing that value. I think, seeing a big project and like something like, say, Sydney Gateway, amazing project. If you could walk away from that and be like, maybe not what could have been done differently, but maybe what you walked away from and you would use again that might benefit your next project, for example.
Yeah, so I think looking back on the number of different large projects that I've been on, and having been in different positions on those projects, I found that when I was in my sort of junior positions, like at the project engineer level, I guess I would get frustrated with the process and I guess the politics of the project sometimes. And looking back, I probably didn't understand everything around those particular issues. And so if there was a level of frustration internally with me at that level of, I don't want to be on big jobs anymore, But later on in my career, when I was in, I guess, positions of influence, I guess, I found that I enjoyed them a bit more because you are able to shape and mold them more in a way that you want to deliver. One of the key aspects is people. The people that you have on board, your leaders, are they wanting to take the project in the right direction? No egos. That's a big thing. It's always what's best for project. They're the key aspects for me on these large projects, as well as the attitude from the contractor side and the client side wanting to deliver something together and not where the client, we're paying you, you do this, you do that. That dynamic doesn't really work, I think. Certainly in the latest large projects that I've been exposed to, that's the collaborative approach is a bit more, a bit more positive and more of a positive outcome for the projects.
You mentioned influence, and also politics.
Yeah,
maybe sometimes one and the same thing. But how important was your influence to shape projects and their outcomes?
Well, it was a team effort, Everything takes it takes two to tango for everything on these jobs. So I might come up with a good idea, but you got to get the buy-in from your superintendents, your engineering team, the client, your management. So it's just about understanding what you want out of that particular decision and why. Is it beneficial for the project? Is it going to save time, money? Is it going to be safer? Whatever it may be, sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it and how you communicate that. And so for me, that's what I've learned over the last 5 or 6 years really is the way you communicate and how you communicate is probably more important than what you actually say, more important than the words that you use, is maybe just changing how you pitch something to one of your managers or a client to get that outcome that you believe is going to be beneficial. They may not see that straight away. And as a contractor, you don't always give away all your secrets, so to speak, but you want to push the project into a positive space, and I think that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's definitely about people, that's for sure. About that, and maybe following on from influence, what's your take on like the handshake? Because a lot of people talk about handshake deals. We shook hands on it. How do you take that in your role? Maybe where you were, and maybe where you are now. How do you take that? Because a lot of people like contract's a contract.
Yeah.
We've got to follow the contract.
Yeah.
How do you create those relationships to have the influence, to have a handshake deal that might not be in accordance with the contract, but it's going to get done because of that handshake?
Yeah, for me, it's about trust, and it's going to take time for anyone, particularly if it's a new client or a new colleague that you're dealing with. They're going to need time to trust you, and so shaking hands on the first day isn't necessarily, stamped approval that it's going to happen, but for me, it's about time and trust. And once that's there, you want to be able to keep that as much as you possibly can, because as soon as you break it, it's very hard to get back. That trust is very hard to get back. And so sticking to your word is very important to me, integrity. And if you say something, deliver upon it. And if you can't, you need to be upfront and honest with that person as soon as you know about it. As soon as you try and start hiding things, then throw away any sort of handshake agreement, because it's just not going to happen anymore. They don't trust you anymore. So, there's a few things there, but for me, it's around time and trust and delivering upon what you say. And if you can't, just be upfront and honest and pick up the phone or come and see me. Don't send me an email. So
No email.
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, that's an easy one to remember.
Yeah.
So, your client side, government, what's your advice to contractors out there looking to break into the market or differentiate themselves? What would you say to those contractors out there, given your experience and seeing you now, in an advisory sort of role?
For me, it's all about value for money, and what I said before around sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so getting an understanding of what does the client want, what's motivating them, and then tailoring your proposal, your tender, whatever it may be, to that motivation, and pitching to them a value for money solution for that. So I know in this industry, it's got a reputation for the cheapest price wins. I think that's changing a little bit. Certainly you have to be close, I think, and depending on the size of job, obviously.
Yep.
For me, it's all value for money with the client, whether it's value for money in constructing it right now, or a whole of life discussion. Might cost you $100,000 now, but in the long run, in 10 years, it's going to save you $500,000, whatever it may be. So it's just not considering today's cost, but there's a maintenance aspect to a lot of things these days. And so I know, Transport for New South Wales, for example, consider that whole of life aspect and cost seriously when it comes to value for money solutions.
Yeah, because you're right. There's this whole cheapest price wins, competitive nature of construction contracts, but then also this counterintuitive contractors have to make money as well.
Yeah.
How do you find? How could you see that we could balance that? Because I think that's probably one of the hardest things. Because everyone's talking. I think through COVID there was a lot of cost plus. There was a lot of margin this. There was a lot of X that. But then clients like, well, we want the best price, but is it out there? Do we have the choice? How do you think both maybe client and contractor could balance that between competitive value and profit?
Well, the client's always got a budget, so if you're in that budget, then you're in the ballpark, and you just have to be confident in what you're pricing. And I guess when at tender, you do take some risks at times. They could vary from big to small, just depending on the project. And just understanding the job, understanding the scope, and knowing that as a contractor, you've got the ability to deliver that, and backing yourself to deliver that plus do better. So that's a mentality that all contractors have: is this is our price, but we're always going to try and beat our costs when we're out there and actually delivering. But as long as you're providing that value for the client and you're within their budget, then everyone wins in that point at that point in time.
Mm. You know, the amount of jobs I've priced and just like thought, what's the budget?
Yeah.
Like, how can you ever know? Do you think you can ever know?
Sometimes, depending on the client, they tell you what they need
True.
to, what the
Yes.
budget is.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't. But you get a sense whether you're in the ballpark or not. And so it's just the ability to, I guess, tic-tac with the client and read what they're saying, I guess, reading between the lines and, yeah, making that judgment call. If they're interested, they'll be asking a lot of questions post-tender. If they're not so interested, it's probably going to be a bit quiet. So you kind of understand that there. And I think with any bid or any tender, if you can interact with the client as much as possible, take every opportunity that you can to sit in front of them and have a chat and have a discussion or propose something. As long you're getting that airtime with the client, so gives you that ability to build a relationship and the trust with them, and these little things go a long way into winning bids.
Mm. I've got a note here about the profitable project framework.
Oh, yeah. It's something that it's just a PDF, to be honest, but it's something that I picked up over the many years on seeing not so good jobs and profitable jobs and piecing them together. And as a project manager, if I implemented these things, I think at least that would give me a good framework to build a good profitable project. And they're small things, but they're the sort of minimum requirements that I would implement on a project if I was to start from scratch on another job that we could build upon as a team and go from there.
Tell us about it. What give me a takeaway. What can you divulge to the listeners that they might go, oh, that sounds cool. Maybe I'll hit you up for that.
Yeah, it's probably nothing groundbreaking, to be honest, but I've never really seen it put together in one sort of document, so that's what I decided to do. But it's everything from frequency on meetings, how many meetings, what kind of meetings they should be, who should attend these kinds of meetings. And that's not to say that all projects are run with meetings, but that's the opportunity for people to speak up and voice what's happening out on site. There's things in there around doing site walks, getting out there and making sure everything's okay. Ideally, you're out there every day, but that's sometimes not possible. So, how many times should you go out there? And it depends on the size of job, really. But I think, one thing that's in there that is very important is at least a daily meeting with the supervisors. What's the plan for tomorrow? What did we do today? Did we get everything done? If not, why? There's a bit of accountability there, making sure that the small things are getting done every single day, which add up to the big win at the end. And so for me, it's just that's just a bit of a checklist on these are the small things that should be done either daily, weekly, or monthly, and it will set you up for a successful job, I think, in the long run.
Everyone's sick of meetings.
Yeah.
So many meetings.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and I'll maybe frame this a few ways, the bigger the project, the more meetings? The bigger the project, the more meetings with more people because there's more stakeholders? Can we get away with meetings? Do you think that there's a world where you don't even need meetings? I hear so much about meetings and meetings. Like, Jeff Bezos, he doesn't have meetings. Or Elon Musk, it's a 2-minute meeting. Or if you don't say anything in the meeting, you're gone. Like, you're not coming to the next meeting. How do you take all of that I just said and like maybe spin it into your take on meetings?
I think they just need to be relevant and timely, and that the right people are there for that particular meeting. Those minimum requirements there, depending on the size of project. A small project, you're going to have less meetings. That's just the reality, because you're there with everyone involved every day, every minute of the day. Whereas on a larger project, you're not necessarily talking to the people that are dealing with other things every single day. So there's definitely a requirement for meetings. It's just a matter of understanding, okay, have we got the right direction for this meeting, and are we inviting the right people? So we're communicating. The main thing is, are we communicating the most important things that need to be done for the day, the week, or the month, or whatever meeting it may be, to the right people to make sure it gets done. One thing for me is that it's a good place to, I guess, keep people accountable, including myself, that, hey, we need to do this by a certain date, and it's a good point in time to check in on that. So, yeah, I mean, you can definitely have too many. Less is definitely better. But, yeah, I think they're still required.
Yeah, meetings.
Particularly with the clients, yeah, because the clients...
Yeah, you got to talk to the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, client meetings, internal meetings, stakeholder meetings. So, yeah, they do start
Coffee
to add up.
meetings.
Coffee meetings.
Walking meetings.
Yeah. Safety meetings, safety walks.
So definitely wanted to talk about you shifting from, say, engineer to commercial advisor or an advisory role. Yeah. What made you make that transition?
I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I guess I'm at that, point in my career now where I have the confidence, or when I decided to start, at that point in time, I had the confidence in my ability to do this, and so that was basically it, really. I guess in theory, I had all the technical skills before, but for me, it was just about, I feel confident now that I can sit in front of anyone and discuss projects and strategies and what looks good and what is not so good, and so I think for me it was just more about the confidence side of things.
How do you know when you're ready?
It's like having a baby, right? You just yeah.
Whoa!
Once
that's
it's
a
there,
leap of faith.
yeah.
That one.
Well, you think you're ready, and then you have a baby, like, oh, maybe not so much. But you just roll with the punches.
Yeah.
You feel confident about doing it, just do it. Worst thing in the world is you go back and get a job, I guess. And we're lucky in I guess Sydney and Australia. There's plenty of construction and engineering jobs, particularly now. So, yeah, I think for me it was just about confidence, and when you're never going to be 100% ready, but if you feel like you're 80% there, then you'll work out the remainder. Yeah, as you go.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, NG advisory.
Yep.
What does it mean?
It's just a play on words on engineering, obviously. We essentially provide project management services to clients and contractors, and really, because I'm at the forefront of it, I still like to be involved in all the projects that we're dealing with. I love construction. I like doing deals and negotiating with clients and things like that. So that's really what we provide, and I guess our point of difference is that we come from the contractor side of things, and we understand how we build things, how we look at design, how we look at commercial, and it's just a different angle, I guess, for clients, for client side, but also gives confidence to the builders and the contractors in our world, that we've been there and done that before, and so kind of looking at both sides of the coin.
So, who's your client? Is it the client who's paying, or is it the contractor who's building, or both?
Both.
How are you going to sit on both sides of the fence?
Well, it depends on the project.
Sure.
So then depends on the client as well. So there might be a job for, let's just use Transport for New South Wales for an example.
Sure.
It might be a project over there, and there's a different contractor looking at another project down the road, or further away, and they've engaged us to do something for them, and so we just manage that separately. And yeah, there's no sort of conflict or anything in that at that point in time. And I guess it's just to be clear with the client that this is what we're doing, and if there's any issues, speak up. If not, then it's all okay. Yeah.
So, only because I love a good plug.
Yeah.
So, specialist advisory services for construction projects, major infrastructure projects. So,
Yep.
major projects. And what advice are you giving? Like, is it anything? Is it constructability? Is it commercial? Is it tender? Is it I don't know.
Yeah.
Give me your
Yep.
spiel.
Yeah,
Here's your shot.
Yeah. So we can do anything from the actual project management at different levels, project engineers to project managers, providing that service for contractors, and also client side, depending on what level they require. So with that comes the day-to-day operations on delivery, or there's the commercial aspect of it, and also we get involved in pre-contracts and tendering as well. So we're involved in all aspects, the whole project life cycle, on both client side and contractor side. So
if you could change one thing how infrastructure projects are delivered right now in New South Wales, what would that be?
There's a lot of red tape, and so I have seen a shift, particularly lately, that the government is trying to do a lot more work early on to try and get approvals as quickly as possible. But to me, 6 months to get a CEMP on a DNC project is crazy long. Why does it take so long? It's just because of all the requirements we have to fulfill and the durations that people have to review things, and so I understand why it takes long, but surely there's a way to make that shorter and speed up projects. I mean, the first 6 months of a job is lost because you're waiting on a environmental approval, management plan to be approved. So yeah, it's just unfortunate. That's how it is at the moment. I think that's one thing that we should be looking at to help reduce the projects, and that's going to reduce overheads, which reduces the cost for the project, which saves money for the taxpayer, and so it has a lot of benefits to it.
Okay, so cut red tape for CMPs. Anything else?
I think in the utility space as well, that also seems to take a lot of time. All different utility authorities going through all those approvals, designs, approval and coordination, and it does seem to take a lot of time. On a DNC, going through the design process to get a design to IFC is 12 months because of all the different design gates and approvals and everything as well. So I understand why they're there, but they take time, and all of this eats into, I guess, the cost of the project for the government, for the taxpayer. So there's a few things there that I think we can improve on, and it's mainly time-related things, So yeah, it's not going to be solved in this conversation, but
you never know.
Yeah, hopefully
someone's listening.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
So what about delivery models?
Yeah.
Because having a history in contracts, C only, D&C, PPP you mentioned, delivery partner. How do you think that the government could take advantage of some of the newer delivery models?
Well, they just sort of but there's this new collaborative D&C model, which was taken sort of from the success of Sydney Gateway, and they looked at that and said, well, how did they deliver that compared to other D&C projects? I guess it's just there's different risk profiles for the government and the contractors with the different models, and it's a lot quicker and easier for the government to issue out a tender as a DNC, because they just get it out to the market and we tender for it and it gets delivered. With a construct only, it takes the government a bit more time because they have to develop the design and then it comes to market, that gets priced. And so I think there's a few things there that need to be considered, and it's what's the workload out there? What's the risk profile that the government wants to take? And what's the risk profile that the contractors will want to take? So some projects come out for tender and contractors push back on it and say, we don't like this model, we want to use a different model. And so it varies from project to project and the risk profile of that particular job. I've enjoyed and had success on both construct only and DNC, so they both have their positives and negatives. DNC, you get to sort of influence the design a bit more and you got time to do that, whereas a construct only, you're straight into it, and any design changes take time, and is it worth making that change versus just continuing to build what's there that you've already priced? And so yeah, they're very different, and you just got to look at each aspect of it in its own sort of independent light, and to see what's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks, and I think it is. I do appreciate seeing, say, like a Sydney Water going to like a delivery model with a planning partner and a delivery contractor, and then hearing about transport moving to a collaborative framework. I mean, I feel like the steps are there. I just obviously feel we need more of that, because you mentioned risk. It is all about risk, really.
Yeah.
But how can authority, contractor, designer all work together to get the outcome where everyone wins? And I think that's what everyone talks about, but I just have only seen it done a few times very successfully. I mean, you mentioned one project there, but that for me feels like the model needs to change.
Yeah, and maybe there's something around an ECI process whilst these clients are developing their designs. Okay, you may have to pay some contractors to be involved in that ECI, but I think you would get the benefit in the long run. I don't think they do that enough.
Oh, you're preaching to the converted on ECI.
So,
definitely.
So, there's a benefit there for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Whether it ends up being a construct only or DNC.
Regardless.
It's good to have that market feedback and advice early on, so you can move the project in the right direction.
Most definitely. So, what's your advice to young engineers or project managers to step up and take at least maybe ownership of a project, or own the commercial outcome, or maybe just what's your key advice to young engineers at the moment?
I think it's kind of what I said earlier about saying yes to life. Just be willing to take it on, really understand it, not just memorize things and remember things, but understand why. I was having a discussion with a commercial manager about site conditions, and I was saying it was, and he was saying it wasn't, and that made me think, well, I'm going to dive a bit deeper into this. Why are you telling me no? I don't believe that argument. And so the more I delved into it, the more I thought I was right, but he's a lot more experienced than I am, 40 years in the industry. And so it's all banter at the end of the day, but I guess the message is, dive into it, learn what it is. That's the technical side of things. The other part to it is, as you progress, becomes less technical and more about managing people and the bigger picture. So really understanding what drives and motivates your teammates, your colleagues. Some people have got different, everyone's got different motivations, and is this person driven by money, or are they driven by a title, or are they driven by the amount of responsibility that they have, or are they only interested in structures and they're only interested in civils, and so understanding what everyone is about goes a long way, because you can tailor how you talk to them and how you manage them and motivate them by understanding what they're about. So there's the technical aspect, and then there's the managerial people aspect to both, to construction.
So for anyone that's still listening to this podcast, I hope we're obviously still got a bunch of listeners. For them who are still here listening to this amazing conversation, what are you going to tell them? Maybe about you, maybe about what they can do, or maybe what they can leverage in their career to hopefully one day maybe have a company, or feel like they're confident enough to do so.
Yeah, I think really the message is be confident in the technical ability, learn and get better, and read about self-development, because when you develop yourself, you inherently need to understand others, and so by understanding others makes you better at dealing with people, and that goes a lot further in your career than understanding how to put a drainage line in very well, so that's really the message, because it becomes less technical as you progress.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Pete, thanks so much for coming in and having a chat. It's been great to hear about your journey, the saying yes, going for it. And I really love that transition around, you talked about going to the detail, but then you talked about it's about the people. And you talked about influence and politics and what that means, and just seeing you go through that journey. And, I honestly wish you the best with NG Advisory. I'm sure you'll absolutely smash it. I hope you got something out of today.
Yes, I did.
And very much look forward to seeing where you go.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Darren. Thank you.
Thanking you.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. Please like and subscribe. It helps us reach so many more aspiring engineering professionals and entrepreneurs. You can find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube.